possibly live now, if anyone knows. Hello, everyone. Sorry, we've got new logistical issues. We're using new software because Google Hangouts decided to sack off, so we're using something different this week, and it's not going so smoothly as we expected. So yeah, that's that. I hope everyone is well. If this is even working, I have no idea if this is working. Let's just assume it is. Hallie, how are you? Apart from your webcam issues.
Yeah, I'm here, guys. You just can't see a damn thing, but I'm here.
If anyone would like to join, feel free, because you'll be our test subject. The description, it's in the description, the link. This is supposed to work the same as Google Hangouts. Whether or not it does work the same as Google Hangouts, this is what we're going to find out. So,
wait,
yeah.
Guys, hold on, wait. Dylan, can you see me and Ben, or just Ben?
Oh, yeah, no Hallie. So
okay, that's fine. Okay, I started to get a little freaked out for a second. I'm like, okay, if people can see me, but I can't see them, that's not necessarily a good thing.
No guitar. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
Same place, just cameras in the different location.
Ben has a little bit of bedhead, as you can see.
Yes, I've literally just woken up. I didn't sleep very well.
I woke up, Ben.
Went to bed about 2 o'clock this afternoon to get a nap, and I just slept straight through to now. So yes, good morning, everybody. So yeah, logistical issues, sleep issues, people issues, everything's a nightmare. But if you want to join, feel free. Say the description link should be in the description. I don't know what's going to happen because this is all new software, so we'll have to see. Anyway, Hallie, how are you? Let's do this.
I'm good, despite technology's a bitch. That's all I can say. Is like, I was so excited. I got a brand new laptop, and it's a beast of a laptop, and it's wonderful and beautiful and does all the things that I want it to do, except for run a freaking web camera. So other than that, it's been fabulous. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right. I'm just testing this thing out. Look at this. Woo!
Oh, I know. I'm laughing because I'm sitting here thinking to myself, for those people who may not have seen a live stream before and don't know what I look like, could be a little weird.
I think we can do this as well.
Your cat is having issues.
Oh, my cat is going absolutely mental. Look at this. You can put little banners up. Anyway, today we are talking about Pauline. My cat, come here and lay down. She's going mental, so I haven't fed her yet, basically. Yes, today we are talking about disappearance and reappearance, and then sort of dead appearance of Pauline Picard, right?
Oh, whoa, wait a second. Philip Blair, not the Philip Blair, but says, Ben and Hallie, yes, we can see you both.
Maybe some people can see you and some people can't.
I'm so scared right now. It's not even Okay, I need to know. Full stop. Okay, Richard says he can only see me. Or only Ben, I mean. Philip said, okay, who can see both of us and who can see one of us? Because we're actually, Ben and I on our side are using a different platform. And so it may have something to do with, remember, Ben, we were talking about browsers and all of that?
Yeah.
The other day, and dependent upon who has what browser is going to depend on whether it's just audio or visual. And hello, I might have just talked myself into my own discovery here, but that's just bizarre. Anyway, Pauline Picard, the little girl that Sasquatch took. What about her?
Yeah, the little girl that disappeared. So, so you use a big black square. Yeah, that's what everyone else sees.
That's probably better than what it really is.
So, yeah, recap for the Pauline Picard episode quickly. Little girl, 2 years old, from Brittany in France, goes out with her sisters, doesn't come back. Parents sort of send out search parties, or the local authorities slash parishioner sends out local search parties. No one finds her. A month later, she turns up in Cherbourg, 200 miles away, and parents take her back, only to find out that it's probably not her, because a body turns up a few weeks after that they then say is also their daughter. So they give their not daughter back, and that's kind of that. So who, like obviously lots of mysterious business with the body, things like that as well. But yeah, what did you think of it, Hallie? Oh,
I thought it was really good. There were so many questions that popped up in between, like as it went along.
Yeah, it was just every step of the way were just new mysteries and questions, wasn't it? It was just short little story, but absolutely jam packed full of like just bizarre events.
Yeah, just absolutely crazy. It was just really strange. I mean, so it's like just when you think that one theory is the right way to go, all of a sudden something else popped up, and you're like, well, that kind of blows that out of the water. So
Yeah, totally.
That then, but yeah, no, I guess you probably don't even have notes because you just woke up. But we should start from the beginning.
Yeah, but it's all right. Well, I'll talk about the next episode later. But yeah, I'm still pretty fresh with this one, so it's all right. Richard, she had to be murdered. How did the other skull get there? Yeah, exactly. It's kind of was my conclusions at the end of it. But yeah, so to start off with, I should probably point out something that I've had a few people contact me and ask me about, and I realised that I didn't really include it in the episode. And I think because at the time, because I was reading all the sources and that, it never really crossed my mind that without the sources it might sound difficult. But a lot of people ask me, like, why didn't what did the children say to the police? You know, what did the police ask the children? Did they ask her about Pauline? So I should probably explain the situation there. There wasn't, the investigation was, to compare it to any sort of modern investigation is way off, basically. That there wasn't really any like sort of formal question of anyone, it seems. Or if there was, then there's no records of it that I could find. And I did have police records of other things, but there was no records of any formal question of anyone, even the parents.
1922, Morelli.
Yeah, so it was, and I think that was largely to do with it. I think it was because it was so rural. I mean, a lot of things that you would have thought the police should be doing were being done by the parishioner. So it was kind of that sort of situation, you know, where a lot of stuff wasn't really being dealt with in any sort of official capacity. So yes, there was no real kind of question, because you would think that if she went out, the last kind of witnesses, so they saw her go out with the kids to look for some horses on the hills. A lot of people said they saw her playing in the yard and stuff, and then the dad said he saw her go to the hills, right? And that was kind of the last that anyone saw of her, and that was about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So when she came back, or when the children came back, they were alone and they didn't have Pauline. So yeah, there is no photos. There's just one photo of the house that I could find. So yeah, you would have thought that if you could just ask the kids, you know, where was she, they would solve a lot of it, right? But they didn't seem to do it. They didn't seem to do it. It was very strange.
Yeah, I just honestly, I'd like to get like all the siblings together in one room.
Yeah.
And just say, okay, here's the deal. If nobody tells me what the truth is, and nobody tells me what was really going on and what happened,
yeah, exactly.
You're all going to pay the price.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Just what?
it's like,
Okay, kids, what happened? You know.
yeah, because and that's the thing. It's like nobody, like no one asked the kids. Like nobody talked to the kids.
It really seemed not. It seemed like I say a lot of the stuff that you would have thought would have been organised by police was actually organised by the local parishioner. So, I mean, that sort of says a lot about the operation, doesn't it? There was sort of communication. Obviously, they were sort of putting out that she was missing and stuff like that because the police in Cherbourg obviously knew about it and things like that. But everything was sort of done either by the local gendarme or the parishioner. And when other police had to get involved, it took them days to turn up. I mean, when they found the body, for example, which is obviously jumping ahead a little bit, but when they found the body, they they had to kind of keep guard on it overnight because it took the police like over a day to get there. They basically found it, and the body, yeah, sort of 24 hours later, the police actually arrived after being contacted. So I think it was the kind of rural locality and just the I guess the way it was so isolated that it just took yeah, nothing was really done very well. And say if there were records, if they were questioned, there are no records that I could find. And I did have other police records. I would have thought they would have been with them. So yeah, that's that. No questioning of the children. Very strange, right?
No, that's totally strange. I mean, my first thought was, what? Okay, we're all adults here. What the hell is a 2-year-old going out to deal with horses? I have horses, okay? Even little kids that want to take lessons, we don't let them come out to even get close to a horse and learn their horse manners until they're at least 5. And that's with a massive, like, signature from the parents saying if your kid's stupid and stands behind a horse while it's kicking and gets hit, then it's not our fault.
Yeah,
But
they were very independent, like the kids and that. Like they were, yeah, like you say, like just getting on with farm work. She was 2, and she
yeah,
was off out with her sisters. I mean, she wasn't obviously not doing it by herself. She was off out with her elder sisters and that, but still, seems that the whole situation seems quite crazy because they had like 9 children, and one of the newspapers suggested that the reason they got the Cherbourg child and didn't realize it was Pauline was because
they didn't know her that well.
yeah, because she'd been raised by her sisters and the parents just didn't know her very well.
Okay,
So,
but the fact of the matter is, when you've got a family that big with so many kids, it's not uncommon for the older children to be responsible for taking care of the smaller ones for the most part.
yeah, right. And I guess I get like, in that time they would have been busy. The kids were kind of farmhands,
Oh yeah, that's why you had a big family, because you needed them to help work the farm.
yeah, everyone looked out for each other sort of thing. Like everyone chipped in.
Yeah.
But at 2 years old, you wouldn't think you'd be chipping in that heavily. You think you get a few more years.
Well, I think at 2 years old, you'd be more of a hindrance out there than you would be of a help.
Yeah.
I mean,
Totally.
wouldn't you think? Because then somebody's got to be responsible for taking care of. Now Hallie's a white dot gone.
Yeah, for a while you were a white dot, but that's.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh. Hey, I wonder if that works. I might be a white dot again. Hold on. But no, I mean, to a certain extent, it's like nobody wanted to. None of the kids, if they had chores to do, none of them probably wanted to be responsible for taking care of Pauline.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because
Yeah,
someone had to be watching her, so someone had to be taking care of her.
well, someone must have been. Yeah, I mean, like I said, and it's if they could have questioned those someone, obviously, that would have answered probably a lot of questions, but they just didn't. The fact that the mother recognised the child's ears, not the child's face, is very strange. It was his, yeah, yeah. There was a lot of strange stuff about that.
Right.
So when they found the kid, so they found this kid in Cherbourg, and they contacted the parents, and the parents said they showed him a photo, and the parents were sort of, I mean, an RM, but thought it's worth a trip up to see. And when they actually met the kid at first, they both said, "Nah, it's not our child." Both the parents, but the people, it all gets very messy on who sort of suggested that it might have been, and who kind of pushed them into hanging out, because at first the parents, both of them, said it wasn't their kid, and the local kind of head of the convent guy sort of said, "Why don't you hang out to try talking to her, spend a bit of time, perhaps you'll kind of warm up to the idea," sort of thing. And it all gets very messy as to who sort of decided first, and it was. But the father said that he could see with the eyes. We got Sweetleaf come on the stream.
Hey!
I need to.
Now I lost the audio.
Pause the YouTube, or
if you've got YouTube on your monitor or your phone, you need to mute the sound.
Do what?
Hold on.
I had it on Bluetooth, and all of a sudden it dropped out. The audio dropped out.
Because at the moment it's echoing.
So if you look, are you doing it on your phone?
It's a tablet.
Tablet. Okay. So on the video portion of YouTube, if you like put the mouse or finger or whatever on it, you'll see a little speaker sign.
Little video icon. Nope.
Little next to the pause and the play button, there's a speaker sign. If you hit that, it'll need.
Oh, hello. There we go. Hold on. I've just muted. I'm just pressing things.
Ben's just pushing buttons.
The problem with the loop is it's just going to end up doing that thing. Wait, hold on. I've got to mute that because I'm going to do it. You know, they did that thing, that weapon where they turn a speaker onto people talking, so they can't talk because they can hear themselves, and they end up just like you can't speak. Yeah, that's just going to happen.
Maybe if you
definitely need headphones. It's not going to work. Yeah, so until Sweetleaf sorts his headphones out, I've muted him for now. So what were we talking about?
I don't remember. If I'm thinking if he turns off his headphones and then just uses the audio video through the tablet, it might be better, because then you don't have two audios going in, right?
Oh, right. Yeah.
So I put on makeup for nothing today.
I don't have any makeup on, and probably should. I've still got loads of scars from my
from your chicken pox.
Yeah.
Your zombie plague.
Yeah, it really was a zombie plague. How's Sweetleaf getting on? Oh. No, still very echoey. Yeah, so Cherbourg, that's right. So yeah, the dad was the first person, and he sort of pointed out that it was her eyes that decided that made him decide that it was that was his daughter was because of the eyes. Oh, I can't unmute. Yeah, and then it was the mum that said it's the ears. So but the ears were very strange. You would think, you know, out of all of the things, if to pick from a child, ears would be a bit of a strange one.
Yeah. I mean, I can honestly tell you, and I've only got one kid. I don't think I could have recognized her ears as a little kid.
Well, they said that they
just
were
being
very
honest.
well, they said they were very specific sort of shape ears, and she
You
said
mean-
that
Could it have been like the whole thing with the Somerton man?
could have been, but I mean,
Remember how he had really distinct ears? Morelli said maybe they were pointed.
yeah, like maybe she was like
She
a
was
little
fey.
pixie, a crazy
She was
little
fey.
a crazy little pixie girl. Yeah, it was yeah, but a peculiar thing to decide. And they said that she'd lost a lot of weight, and that was what was kind of throwing them, because it looked like their daughter, but it looked like she'd lost a bit of weight.
Okay, but just because, like, if I lose, you know, like my allotted 5 pounds of winter weight, it doesn't mean I shrink 5 inches.
Well, yeah, quite. Yeah, she was 17 centimeters shorter, wasn't she? So yeah, I mean, it was clearly not her. And it seems to me, but what's interesting to me is it never really the blame is immediately sort of put onto the parents as to, you know, almost like, oh, they couldn't recognize their own child or this. But when you read the actual sort of quotes from the authorities, a lot of them they did sort of push the parents into taking the kid, you know, that they were very not pushy, but they were very like, oh, why don't you stay an extra day and see how the kid grows, you know, see if the kid sort of, because they're blaming it on like amnesia, saying that that's why it couldn't speak their language and things like that.
Okay, amnesia as a whole is a farce, but anyway, the whole thing, it's kind of like, you know, when you've got that one puppy left that you're really trying to get rid of, and you see people coming to look at it and they're like, oh, it's a little too energetic. No, really, it just needs to take a nap. You'll be fine. You'll love it, I'm sure. You know?
Yeah, very, very much like, yeah, it did seem like at first the parents weren't that sort of keen on the idea. And it was only the second day that the dad then said, no, this is actually my kid. And now I'm quite into it. And then the mum still needed talking round. And eventually, I think the deal was sort of take her for now and see how you get on. Which the local kind of convent leader guy sort of said to the parents, you know, why don't you just sort of take her back to the farm and see how you get on with her back at the farm, and maybe that once she gets home, her memories will start coming back. So, you know, it was very say the parents seemed to get the blame, but I thought that perhaps that was a bit harsh, because they were sort of heavily pushed into it.
Yeah, that was kind of jacked up. It just wasn't very nice.
So when they got home, they treated her basically like their kid, and set her to work looking after the horses.
I know, right?
And she lived there for a few weeks, but she couldn't really speak their language.
But how old was she?
Well, see, this is the weird thing. She was two.
Okay, and that's the other thing, is that, okay, I mean, all kids are different. I mean, just because my daughter was speaking full sentences at one age doesn't mean that's typical for a normal 2-year-old. I mean, for all they know, she she could have had some sort of learning difficulty, or just the fact that she's 2 years old and the trauma of not being with her real family. I mean, that in and of itself could cause a child to go mute.
Well, yeah, that's what I thought it was, like trauma perhaps or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, and not to mention that, if she was, like you had suggested, dumped by a foreign family, doesn't speak the language, has no idea what these people are saying.
Yeah.
That's a little traumatic. I wouldn't say much either.
Yeah, me neither. Everyone said that she was really friendly, and she was not scared of adults, or like that. That was one of the reasons they said that they didn't think that she was abused, because she was not like suspicious or afraid of adults at all. And when she was in the police station and with the gendarmes and stuff, she was always sort of very friendly with everyone.
Mm-hmm.
She would but she just wouldn't talk to them, but she would hug people and all the rest of it. The parents said that one of the reasons they thought it wasn't their daughter was because their daughter was very chatty, and this one obviously wasn't. But at 2 years old, how chatty are you?
You can be pretty chatty.
Really?
mean,
Because
yeah.
I wasn't really sure. Like,
My daughter was pretty freaking chatty. I mean, I love her to death, but she, the girl could talk. There's no shortage of giving their opinion.
oh right, okay, so they can definitely talk. Like,
Oh
quite
yeah,
quick.
yeah. No, they can talk.
So
That's for
she
sure.
did start picking up Breton language again, but how much is really debated. Like the newspapers were very strange. They sort of were running with the story a little bit, and I think they wanted as much as the parents, perhaps like a happy outcome to it all. And they all started reporting on how she was now speaking Breton and all the rest of it. But how much she was speaking seems to come out later that it wasn't very much at all, and it was things like yes, no, bread, like simple words. And as a 2-year-old, they pick up language rapid, right?
Yeah, I mean, fairly quickly.
So I thought that's not unusual anyway.
I mean, it's much easier for a child to pick up a new language than it is an adult.
Yeah, yeah. So, excuse me, if you're just chucked in, you'd probably pick up like yes, no, bread anyway, right?
Well, yeah, and I mean, just by the sheer learning of it, when you're around, pretty chatty and baby talk, just them being around all the other kids and knowing that, when they hear this one word, that kid keeps turning around, so that must be the name.
Yeah. Yeah, it was very strange. And they said that now she can remember the names of the family and stuff. So she's obviously getting, remembering. They thought that because she'd learned the kids' names that she was getting her memory back, and then so things were on the up and up. But couldn't that just been her remembering her, like learning them?
Yeah, no, totally. Are you there, Sweetleaf? I see him visually.
Yeah. So that was weird. And then so then it gets really interesting. So then the body shows up like 3 weeks later. And the parents ID that as also Pauline, but the body is very strange. So it doesn't have a head for starters. And some of its limbs are missing.
I have a whole theory on that.
Yeah, let's hear it. Let's go for it.
No, go ahead. You go.
Well, no, that's kind of it. I mean, they find the body, and that's kind of the long and the short of it, isn't it? They find it, and it takes them a day to really kind of get the police there. When they find it, they say some of the clothes were scattered everywhere, but there's a lot of witnesses that say they were folded up. That's a very difficult part of the case to work out, which is true. But yeah, go for it. What's your theory? So
Well, no, because you were saying that she was basically dismembered, right?
Yeah, so she didn't have a head, and one of her legs was missing, and I think both of her arms.
I was gonna say because it wasn't an entire corpse.
Yeah, no, it was bits and bobs.
Okay. I think the thing was, and it was like, because I made my daughter listen to it while I had her as a captive audience in the car, and we were driving to go check on our horse. She kept looking at me with a WTF look, like, oh my God, oh my God. And we were talking about it afterwards, and I said, I just wish that there was some way, and I know this sounds just really horrible, but I wish there was some way to see the disambiguation points to like figure out if it was like, okay, think Hinterkaifeck, a clean cut with an axe, or
Yeah, I know what you mean.
a pack of wolves, doing what wolves do.
Yeah, it was really frustrating. Again, this was another thing that wasn't really commented. I saw the autopsy report, and even that didn't really state what was what. So normally autopsy reports do state like whereabouts. Say if an arm was missing, they would state where from.
Right, from the elbow down or below.
Yeah, and also like the state of the cut sort of thing. But they didn't really. They just said what was there and what wasn't. So it was. That's my cat. Yeah. So this didn't really state, because to me, I would have thought if they were sort of from the joints, that would sort of suggest that something had just pulled them off, right?
Yeah, I mean, and that's what I was wondering, is because with, when you have someone who is killing people for a living, or trying to dispose of a body, it's not uncommon for someone, if that's their method, for them to actually dismember the body, for them to leave the parts in different areas. I mean, it's a pretty well known. I mean, Ed Kemper kept the heads, of several of his victims on the shelves. I mean, it's just it wouldn't be unheard of for someone like that to keep her head.
Yeah, what's strange? Excuse me. What's strange?
Horrible.
Yeah, no, but what's strange, I thought, is that they didn't ever find the limbs and head. So the head was missing, but there was a skull 1.5 meters away.
But how old was that skull, though?
It was a full-grown male, so it clearly wasn't her skull.
I know, but how long? I mean, was it a fresh skull?
Oh, it had no skin, so it was completely
stripped.
Like, yeah, it was a stripped, clean skull, so it didn't really match anyway. Well, yeah, I don't think it had been. I do think it was dumped at the same time as the body, because I think they would have found it. So there was a search, and it was massive. They said that it was quite difficult to work out, because they never really mentioned the search until after the fact, but like at the inquest. But it seems there was about 150 people on the search, and they had dogs on the go as well and things like that. And I do believe the parishioner when he says, basically, we searched that field and we would have found, a wallet if someone had lost it. So I do sort of believe that.
Oh, no, I totally believe that. But what I also think is that whoever killed Pauline was a member of the search party. And I think that once...
Oh, yeah.
I think that once they had searched that area and, gave it the clean slate sign of approval, then they go back and dump the body.
See, there's a twist, isn't there? There's a plot twist.
Well, because they've already searched the site. So, knowing that everything's been checked already in that area, and, in their mind, they've got a clean slate and it's been looked over, they're not going to go back and look again. So go ahead and dump it. Or for that matter, if it's somebody who was in the search party that had killed her, and, oh, well, I'll check over here, knowing full well that's where the body is. Yep, nope, nothing over here. Let's go in this direction.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very, very common for the perpetrator of the crime to completely insert themselves into the investigation.
Yeah. Well, see, that's an interesting point that I hadn't really considered. But yeah, like how local were they? Because if they were local, so okay, so if you presume it was a local like that, I think you probably could have done a lot of that stuff. Because say the investigation was very amateur, I guess
Yeah,
you could say.
rough. It was a little rough around the edges.
Yeah, it was definitely
Not
not
thorough.
not thorough. Yeah. um Yeah, so I mean, you definitely could have done something like that, I guess. The only thing that I find strange is that if they didn't see her during the search, that's kind of okay. But why did it take them like that many weeks to find the body unless it was dumped the night before that they found her? Because it seemed like it was
Say it.
easy enough to see. Well, the person who found the body wasn't out looking for the body when he found them. They were just
Right.
walking or riding their bike along the road.
Right.
Which suggests to me that it wasn't particularly hidden.
Right.
So they must have dumped the body like the night before it was found, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is I mean, too, and I can't. I'm gonna have to Google it. The name of he was a colonel in, I think it was the RAF, who was a serial killer. It ended up, but I mean, he was in the Air Force, and he was a very high-ranking colonel in the Air Force in Canadian. I mean, he had flown Queen Elizabeth to and fro in the whole 9 yards, but when he finally got caught and he was, telling the investigators where all the bodies were, he'd say, yeah, this one's about 5 yards off the main highway. They're like, well, is it going to be hard to find? He's like, no, it's just right there. That's why I left her there, so someone could find her.
It's
Russell Williams, Colonel Russell Williams. I didn't even have to Google it. Yes.
another one a bit like that. It's the do you remember we did that what episode was it? Where the Jameson family.
Yeah.
And they had like a
With the
massive
truck.
search party, and then they were eventually found like 10 yards away from their car or something, wasn't it? It was a bit further than that, but it wasn't far. It was, within like a stone's throw distance from the car. So it does seem to happen that bodies get overlooked and, people walk past, because the body was eventually found. I think it was 800 meters from the farmhouse.
Well, and the thing I think that tells me that it hadn't been there very long was the fact that this sounds so bad. The soft parts
weren't eaten. Yeah.
If it were there, the animals would have gotten to it, and that's the first thing they go for because it's the easiest to get to.
Especially in such a rural area, you would think that it was been
wolves and even little foxes and
they did mention that they had trouble with wolves and boars, wild boars, and which made me laugh because it was only the week before that we were talking about that stuff, right?
When you said wild boars, I hit pause on the radio and I looked at my daughter and said, "That's it." She goes, "What?" I go, "It was the pigs." She's like, and she looks at me, she goes, "Yeah, pigs will eat anything." I said, "My point exactly."
It was only like the live stream the week before, wasn't it? That we were talking about exactly that. When that did make me laugh when I saw that they were, we're having problems with wild boars, and a lot of people thinking the boars had eaten her, and I was just like, oh god, this is like, it's funny how things go round and round, and you find little tie-ins to things all the way through.
Like it was the pigs.
Yeah. But
that was good.
So they definitely, I think if it was there for longer than a night, I think it would have been eaten, and that's why I think the head was probably carried off rather than decapitated, because you think the body was probably knocking on, depending on when it had been killed, I suppose.
But the animals that usually deal with the head, though, honestly are more along the lines of like the birds of prey, because they'll like take the eyes out and then go, because they're small enough to like go inside the skull.
So they found some of her hair in a bush.
Yeah, the larger
2
predators
meters away.
won't mess with it. The larger predators
Not
won't
wolves
mess
in
with
France again. Yeah, exactly. Well, that's exactly it. Yeah. So it was all definitely. It was actually not so. Well, it was quite far from the area, but it was still rural like that. But yeah. So that they found some of her hair in a bush, say 2 meters away. So my first reaction to that wasn't that just an animal dragging it through the bush?
I think so. Either that or it was just the guy taking the head. The hair got caught on the branch when he was leaving.
Well, see, yeah, because I mean, how else would it got there, really? I mean, unless the guy dumped her there after walking through a bush.
Well, he had to get there somehow. He's not going to just like waltz through the field open, carrying body parts.
Why not? I think that's exactly what he did. He walked straight through the field, dumped her there, and walked off.
Well, I think he probably tried, or we're assuming it's a he. I think they probably tried to at least, not make it so obvious. But
it seems no one gave a shit though. That's the weird thing. I mean, how rural this area is quite terrifying. That said, there's a picture of one picture of the house that I could find, and
yeah,
there's nothing else. It's not for miles.
That's rural France, though. I mean, especially back then.
I was quite shocked when I found out that a lot of the villages, like the village names that I was reading, they were called them villages, but they were just like areas with like one house in. Very strange. Seems like he would have had her in a sack or something. You would expect, right? I mean, that's your normal kind of standard body dumping material, isn't it? Is a sack.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I mean, I think he probably had, dismembered the corpse beforehand and then, toss it all into a nice little sack, carry it through the woods, and then,
Well, I mean, it does kind of go along with it. If the skull was related, I mean, where did the skull come from? You'd think. I think that skull is weird.
I think it could have come from anywhere. I think it's very likely that it didn't even have anything to do with it.
I wonder that. I think it's a bit of a red herring.
I do. I think it had nothing to do with Pauline. I think it just, it was, or for all we know, it could have been one of a previous victim, and he just dumped it to throw everybody off.
That was what I thought. Was that it was perhaps like a previous victim, and maybe he killed a couple of people, but.
Because anybody who's going to dismember a little girl isn't going to have a problem doing it to an adult.
Yeah, clearly. But yeah, it was very grim. But I did think that skull was. I think that perhaps if her head was attached, it would have been overlooked somewhat. But because her head wasn't attached, it gave it new importance, kind of thing. So yeah, I suppose that comes down to the suspects. Who do you think did it? I guess. You think it was someone local then?
I think it was somebody local. Yeah, I think it was somebody in the group that was looking for her, and I doubt very highly it was the first time they had done it.
What about chat? What do you guys think? Do you think it was local, or do you think it was someone passing by who just done it? Because I think it would have been super easy for someone passing by. But if they were passing by, why did the body show up so much later?
They wanted to make sure that they weren't going to find her right away. Or for that matter, he could have kept her for a little while.
Yeah, but that's if it was someone passing by, that doesn't really sort of play into that, does it? Because if they were passing by, how would they then have dumped the body like 3 weeks later? If they weren't, because they obviously wouldn't be in the area anymore, because they'd just be passing through.
Well, I can't tell you of how many times that I've read a case where it's been someone who's not local to the area, but that has found a shed or something that's unoccupied. So they hole up there for a while and
Oh,
keep their person in there with them to do whatever it is that they want to do with them. And then when it's time, they just poof and gone.
yeah. So you mean they stay there? Excuse me. Oh, excuse me. So they stayed there as well. Like,
Right.
yeah, I see what you're saying.
I mean, empty barn, empty shed, because it's not like people, when they build a new barn, they tear down the old one. Usually they would just build one and then the other one just ends up, rotting up on its own.
Yeah,
But,
yeah. So Dylan says local, and Reddy says not the dad. The dad became a heavy suspect. It's quite funny. The newspaper reports are quite funny on this, and everyone was basically sort of everything was very genial and friendly until the body gets found, and they return the kid, and then all of a sudden it seems like the press sort of unleash a lot of theories that they've had, but been kind of keeping a lid on. Yeah, no, it's still. So, where are the theories? That's thrown me again. Hallie, what was I saying? Oh, Dad,
your
the dad.
dad, the newspapers.
Yeah, so they kind of suddenly come out with a whole piece that basically, I mean, it doesn't ever say the dad, but it heavily insinuates that they think it was the dad that did it. And the whole piece in the paper is that's what it's about. It's not really about anything else other than let's all point fingers at the dad. And they blame it on things like they say that he was prone to violent outbursts, and it was all up to him. That's what that they basically were very suspicious as to why he brought the child home from Cherbourg, saying that if he did it, he brought the child home on purpose to cover up, basically. And they said they heavily insinuate that it was the dad. They never state names, but it clearly is that's who they're talking about.
I think the dad just felt so guilty for, especially back then, men were supposed to be responsible for the well-being of their family. And then all of a sudden he has no answer for what happened to his little 2-year-old girl.
Mm.
And, I mean, trauma and situations like that and desperation can do a lot of things.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I don't think it was the dad. I thought that was a very harsh piece actually in the paper. I think in a way they were just kind of grasping at straws a little bit. The thing is though is there's no reason it wasn't the dad. It could, because like I say, there's no sort of extensive police reports on any sort of questioning, or no extensive questioning or anything. So there's no way to really get any kind of idea about what he was saying. The only thing you can go off of is the fact that at first he didn't think it was the kid and he kind of warmed to it. And that kind of, to me, made me feel like he was just maybe mourning, and then the kid, he kind of, so at first he was like, this isn't my child. But then after spending like a day with it, was kind of like, well, this isn't my child, but it wouldn't be so bad, to give this child a home. And now I'm kind of warming up to her, and to me that just didn't seem like, that seemed to me like this series of events, as opposed to, I think if it was him and he decided to use this child as a cover, I think right from the bat he would have been like, oh, that's definitely my child. And that wasn't really the case. When they initially went to Cherbourg, they were very skeptical anyway. They'd already said that the picture looked a bit like their kid, but perhaps it could have lost weight. you know, like they were quite skeptical. Like I would have thought the dad would have been right on it, you know, like that he would have jumped on the opportunity to get himself out of it, basically, wouldn't he? He would have been hypnotizing him. What you mean?
Oh, no.
But so I didn't think. But what about the crazy guy? So there was the crazy guy who said,
I think the poor crazy guy was crazy.
I don't think he had anything to do. I think he was.
I don't think so either.
I think he was a bit of a red herring, really.
I think the poor guy just had some issues.
Yeah. I think. I mean, it came out later that he was sort of mentally disabled from working, or he had some sort of mental issues from a work accident. So I just think I don't think that was his. I don't think it had anything to do with it, really. I don't even think he was that suspicious.
No, I don't either. I think he just had some
Issues.
mental health issues that were, yeah. I don't think he had anything to do with the poor thing.
Yeah, no, me neither.
I felt so bad for him.
I say because a couple of weeks later, he was basically ended up in an asylum, and that was that. So I just think he had issues. I don't think he had anything to do with the kid. And I think they just sort of, you know, I think they were that desperate for anyone that acted anywhere out of line, or, you know, out of this, to raise eyebrows or anything even remotely unordinary, then that was it. You know, jump on it, because they had no one else, basically.
Yeah, because they didn't have anything else to go on. They had no other theories or anything.
Yeah, they were buggered, basically, because they had no suspects at all. The only suspect they had was written off immediately. So yeah, they were screwed, basically. So what do we think? Do we think? I guess I'm gonna guess that everyone in chat, everyone thinks that the kid from Cherbourg wasn't Pauline.
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
I don't. I mean, I think they say, like I said in the sweet old crazy guy that every village needs. Yeah, kind of exactly that. Yeah, that's what I thought. Like, you know, he's just a village crank.
Yeah, because they basically ruled out that other guy, right?
Yes. So the only suspect they had was immediately ruled out because he was not in the area on the day that she was vanished, and he was he had an alibi that checked out. Basically, he was at work somewhere else.
Okay. I just think it was. I think it was probably someone local, and it wasn't his first time, and probably wasn't his last. I mean, it'd be interesting to know of any other cases surrounding that time frame.
Yeah.
You know,
or
within
that
the
area.
years around it. Yeah, that area. Just to see if it was something that had, you know, a pattern to it.
So there's the biggest problem with this case is there's almost nothing surviving from it. The things that survived only survived because they were basically not left in the area. If like because it was obviously because Cherbourg got involved, the kid from Cherbourg, and it became like kind of national. All the records are not from the farm area, if you like, not from the Breton area. They're all from the city. All I learned from this in the wolf story is not to live in rural France. Yeah, exactly. Sounds like a nightmare, right? Basically, if the wolves don't get you, the serial killers will.
Oh my god.
It does seem like it was hard work.
Well, everything was hard back then. I mean, I'm sitting here complaining that my, you know, webcam won't work, you know, hashtag first world problems. But I mean, you know, seriously.
I think it's like how rural it was. Like I mean, because I guess France is quite a big country, isn't it?
It's
and it does seem. I mean, I don't know much about the history of France, but it seems from doing dark histories that the rural areas it seemed like it took a while to get any sort of links. It obviously you had Paris, and it took a long time for the kind of the
I was going to tell you France is about as big as Texas, but 5 Englands can fit into France.
Yeah, so it seems like it took a long time for the spread, basically, of kind of civilization, if you like. So the rural areas were extremely rural, which just seems kind of terrifying. And I guess that's a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's bizarre, a strange case. And I like wolves, but not eating my flesh. Yeah.
So we're agreed that
It's even weirder in rural Canada.
Sasquatch didn't do this one, right? We're good with that. He's got a rep on this one. He's okay.
Well, you know, is there any evidence of Sasquatch being in France? That's the thing.
I think we're good on this one. I think he's got a clean bill on this one, but you know, there is that little 3-year-old boy. No, I mean, there is that little 3-year-old boy in North Carolina that went missing early this year.
Oh, I don't know that. What's that?
Oh, a little boy named Casey Hathaway. He's 3 years old. He was in North Carolina, and I guess his grandmother lived, you know, kind of out in a, I guess you would call a rural setting, so to speak, because, you know, the woods were basically their backyard. So he was out playing with in the back with a couple of his cousins. And when it came time for dinner, the cousins or siblings or whatever come in, but there's no Casey. And yeah. And again, it was like, well, where is he? I don't know. And it just goes to show you, I mean, kids are like that. You know, it just, well, I don't know where he's at. I thought you were taking care of him. I'm not taking care of him.
Yeah.
You know, so nobody's taking care of Casey. But they looked for him for like 45 minutes or something. And then, you know, called 911. And keep in mind, he was gone. The terrain itself that they had to search, and because of the time of year that it was, there were like hundreds of volunteers that went out to look through everything, and they had canines and, you know, aircraft and drones. They actually had to stop searching because the rain was so heavy and the wind was so bad that there were safety concerns for the search party.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So, you know, and there were sinkholes that ended up being flooded because of the rain. And I mean, the poor kid was only like 25 pounds. I mean, it's not like he was a huge little guy, but they end up finding him. And I mean, the temperatures and everything, that he shouldn't have been alive. There was just no way. I mean, he was, you know, he still had his little coat on, but because of the storm and the temperature at night, the kid should not have been. He was in a bunch, and this was the other thing, is when they found him, he was in a bunch of briars.
Like,
and I don't know if you know what briars are, like a briar patch.
Yeah.
It's like thorns, and it's not something
heavy bushes and things.
Yeah, it's not something you just go and hide in. I mean, a briar patch it's evil. I mean, but yeah, they found him, and you know, they asked, from all you could get from a 3-year-old is, the bear took care of me, and that was it. They're like, whoa, wait a second, back up.
The bear took care of you.
What bear? It's like, what the hell?
So is that why it becomes to like Sasquatch then? Do we think that the bear was actually a Sasquatch?
Well, yeah. I mean, when you've got a 3-year-old kid who's sitting there saying the bear took care of me, and you can't get anything else out of him. You know,
I mean,
it's
it
not
happened in
like
the Jungle Book, though, didn't it?
it did. You know, look at Mowgli; he made it.
Yeah.
But you know, I mean, he came out of it pretty darn good for the area and everything he was in, and the rain and all that. But yeah, those are the things that whole missing 411 thing, you know, is all about.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like crazy. It's just crazy.
Wait,
Oh my
so is that
God.
the kind of the theory that the bear was actually a Sasquatch then?
Yeah.
Right. But would a bear not look after a kid?
A bear?
Would it not have any kind of like maternal kind of?
No.
Oh, right. Okay.
Well, not to mention this was January.
Oh,
They're hibernating.
yeah, they would be asleep. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. They're hibernating. If you've got a bear out in January, that there's something wrong with the bear.
Yeah. So Eyes of Enigma says, fun fact, their actual murder is on the
know.
loose near where I am right now. Kind of hoping it doesn't turn into the next episode of Dark History.
That's not even funny.
Yeah, me too.
Wait, what? You too? You got a murderer?
No, me too, as in I hope it doesn't turn into an episode of Dark Histories.
Like,
It'd be
wait,
very
what?
meta, wouldn't it? If it did.
Yeah, just a little. Oh my God. Seriously? Oh, look who pops in. It's even weirder.
James.
Look at that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It says that out at the moors and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah. RCMP came into her. Really? So she's in Canada, apparently.
Who's the RCMP?
A Royal Canadian Mounted Police.
Oh, the Mounties.
Yeah. Yeah, their reputation's hit and miss sometimes, like any other law enforcement agency. But, well, at least they came in to show you what they were looking like. So, you know, the next guy who shows up on Monday and says he's starting to work there, at least you'll know if it's him. That's terrifying.
Yeah, don't get killed, please.
Yeah, let's please not. The polar bear capital of the world. I love polar bears. Okay, that's nuts. Yeah, the Moors. Oh man, the Moors have like this history of all their own.
Yeah, I don't actually know them very well, to be honest.
Oh,
But
I mean, there's
yeah, I know there's like obviously there's a lot of serial killerish stuff to do with the Moors, isn't there?
yeah. I mean, aside from the two idiots, but you know, there's been other bodies and stuff found there that have been very mysterious.
You have the kind of the big cats as well. Big cats of the Moors kind of thing.
The black cats.
Cool. I'm in Maine, so that again, Maine is very rural, kind of.
It is.
Not isolated, is it? But
Women naked in freezing water. I missed that comment by Philip. Swimming naked in freezing water. Yeah, that would be a polar bear.
So, yeah, I don't think it was Sasquatch in France.
Yeah. No, I think he's got the all clear on this one.
Yeah. Although, like I say, has there ever been Sasquatch sightings in France? Anyone from France know the answer to that?
Oh, I'm sure there's been something somewhere. Who knows?
Yeah, probably. But yeah, that's kind of that, really, isn't it? It's like, you know, there are really everything is total speculation with Pauline, isn't there? Really, because there's literally nothing. Almost, it's very much like, I mean, it's as cold can be, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's nothing. There's literally nothing.
I mean, there's nothing for you to even go on.
There's really not, is there?
The documentation that they have was so shoddy, and and because nothing could really be corroborated, like you said, there were so many of them that you didn't even know if what they were saying was really true or not, because it went into the
Mm.
different publications, and then
Yeah, so I mean, even like simple details that you would have thought you should be nailed on were like things like the clothes that the body was wearing were, some said that she was naked, some said that she had partial clothes, some said that she was wearing a pair of tights, some said that she wasn't, some said that the clothes were folded. All, in fact, mentioned that witnesses say that the clothes were folded, but the guy who found the body said that he found the clothes, he found the body because clothes were chucked around everywhere. So it is so much, it's a total mess. And so the only records and documents that survive are the ones that are from outside of the area. This probably would be better documentation if it had survived from the actual area itself, but it seems that they didn't. So it really is. There's nothing to say. It's as cold as cold can be. There's not even names of, because I think a lot of the time they didn't even. A lot of the time you're left kind of guessing as to what they were even talking about, like the areas and different towns, and because they talk about these places like they were villages, and then when you actually look at the area and the maps, you realize they weren't villages. They were tiny sort of clusters of houses with like maybe one or two or three houses. So you get the wrong idea from everything. Basically, it's really hard to work out, just exactly what they're on about a lot of the time. I mean, they said the search was for 150 people. Well, I'd like to know where those people came from, because the whole area only
yeah,
300. So
yeah, no, seriously, if that's how many people were there, and it's not like they could just hop in a car and
yeah,
zip on over to join the search. I mean,
you're
it
talking
took a while
miles.
to it took a while to gather 150 people to get all together in one place and start searching, right?
Mm. So that's, to me, again, it's just another thing, another part of this which didn't really make a great deal of sense to me. We've got the inquest. The inquiry is the best records, the best surviving records, basically. It's the documentation of the inquiry. But everything said at the inquiry doesn't seem to really make any sense, and doesn't really tally with anything else. So you end up, you're totally left just completely buggered, basically. So yeah, that was kind of Pauline.
And not to mention that, they did the autopsy, in a barn by candlelight or something?
Yeah, without any tools or anything. Without any of the correct tools. Yeah.
Oh my God.
I'd like to know what if they just got in there with their hands. Just
honestly, no, I'm dead serious.
Rusty old saw from the back of the barn or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just two fingers. Yeah. It's frustrating to never know what happened. It is very. Yeah, and it's one of those ones where even your speculation feels kind of hollow, because there's not, you just grasp at anything, I don't suppose it'd be too far to stretch the imagination to think a Sasquatch could be lurking around somewhere in France. Yeah, I mean, why not? They're sighted everywhere else, aren't they?
Yes, except Hawaii. Thank you, James. And this is why I love James, because he indulges my Sasquatch theory.
So yeah, really kind of, it's one of those, this was one of those, I really liked the story. So it was shorter, but I really liked the story and I really wanted to get it out, but it does end up leaving you with absolutely nothing to go with. I mean, a lot of the times on Dark Histories episodes, at least there's something to kind of, grip onto and kind of run with. But with this one, it's literally like, I have no idea what happened, and really just make up what you want, because it could have been anything.
Yeah, I don't know. It just, there's like nothing. I mean, it's like you said, it leaves you with absolutely nothing.
Bizarre.
So frustrating.
So next week's episode.
Oh boy, here we go. Dun dun dun.
Well, I've got like two that I'm researching at the same time, like in parallel at the moment. I haven't decided quite which I'm going to do, and it might be neither. But I was looking at either doing like the history of corpse medicine in the West, which could be quite interesting. Or
Ben,
what was the other one?
Since I don't have video, Ben can't see the disapproving look I'm giving him right now.
What, you're not into corpse medicine?
I love corpse medicine. You know me better than that.
And what was the other one that I was looking at? It was another one that was similar, where it was like a big subject as opposed to a particular case. But there was two. What am I? The hell? I can't remember. I've been doing it all week.
Ghost story. It wasn't the cult. You're still not going to do my cult?
Oh, so I was looking at. I've actually got about 3 or 4 episodes on the go right now, because I've been doing one on a cult in New Forest, and one on a ghost story, and one on the people that from France. So corpse medicine, like pathology, is I did say corpse medicine. Corpse medicine is the concept that people would basically use bits of dead people and eat them as medicine.
Oh yeah.
And it was the idea that like healed like. So if you had like a headache, you would crush up the skull of a dead person and eat it, and it would cure your headache. Or
grind up their bones
ACD.
and add them to your tea and what have you.
Yeah, or but I mean, I've got some recipes. I mean, I'm not going to ruin it because they're going to be. I'm going to save them for the episode. Say if it's not this week, it will be soon. But I've got some recipes.
You're so lucky I don't cook.
For blood jam is not one of the recipes I've got. And things. Yeah, I found it in like a 16th century book. A guy talks about how to make blood jam. It's really fascinating. I found it really interesting how they didn't get the hypocrisy, because at the same time, obviously, it was colonial period, and they kind of roamed around saying, "Look at all these kind of cannibals, these kind of savage cannibals and things like that." But actually, they were doing quite the same. And they didn't sort of get that hypocrisy. That was totally, because to them it was like they were dead, so that was that. They were a commodity. And even the King of England would do it. Was well in there. He had his own special little drink that he had. That was. I don't know. I don't know the kings. George II, maybe, or Edward II. He was the second. I think it might have been George II or it was George or Edward II. But he basically had his own special drink called the King's Drops that were alcohol and fragments of skull.
Well, I mean, Henry VIII was a total hypochondriac, so
he would have been well into it. But I can't believe how widespread it was.
He was so afraid of getting sick.
So how long dead are these corpses? Both extremes. Richard.
Can I get that at GNC? GNC is like a vitamin store that you can go and get supplements at.
Oh yeah, I know the one. Yeah.
Okay.
yeah, I don't. Yeah, so both extremes, Richard. You had. I don't want to go too much into it because obviously this would be for the episode, but crushed up mummies were a big part of it. Egyptian mummies and fake mummies have also got a recipe on how to make a fake mummy. And on the other end of that,
great for Halloween.
Yeah, maybe I'll save it for Halloween. On the other end of that, it was freshly dead people were the best because their spirit was still kind of thought to be there, kind of thing. Like the, if the blood was warm, that was great.
They're still a little bit present.
Yeah. So they actually, I read a story that the executioners would do like a bit of a side trade by selling cups of blood to the poor people who couldn't afford to go to apothecaries.
Is this like pre-Birkin hair?
Yes, yeah. Oh, but very much along that lines. And surprisingly, this goes right through to like the 1920s.
Oh, it doesn't surprise me at all.
Surprised me.
Oh, it doesn't surprise me at all. I mean, geez, people don't realize that there's a legitimate black market trade out there for human organs like kidneys, livers, and you can literally wake up in a hotel room missing a kidney. I mean,
Oh yeah, but I mean, it surprised me how you know, the supposedly enlightened
People, yeah.
countries were doing it, because, you know, obviously this was all post-enlightenment and stuff, and sort of era of science, and yet they were still doing it. Yeah, you should see the cool stuff at the biolab.
Yeah, I like how Richard says, bring Keith Richards. He is kind of the Walking Dead, isn't he?
Yeah, right.
I mean, you think zombie corpse, and yeah, he fits the bill. Right?
He's probably been snorting snorting mummies for years.
He's probably
Anything that
so well
sustains him.
preserved. He's so well preserved from the inside out. Oh Lord.
So yeah, that was one of the episodes I've been looking at. So the others were these people from France, the cult from France who danced in the graveyards. The cult in the New Forest who built a 200-foot tower. There's another episode that's another kind of history of kind of episode, but I can't for the life remember what it is now. But yeah, I've kind of been doing them all in tandem, and I'm kind of gonna decide which I'm into at the last moment and sort of spring it and write the whole episode. But yeah, so that's kind of next week. But I did quite like the idea of corpse medicine.
I like that too.
It's pretty bonkers. It's a really interesting history, and very surprising. So yeah, I thought I might do something like that. Plus, it'd be nice just to get away from murders and dead people. I mean, there's lots of dead people, but you know, it'd be nice to do something that isn't murders and stuff for a week. You know, do something, keep it varied. But yeah, anyway, that's kind of that. So should we call this live stream with all our technical issues and hope that the next one we can get them ironed out?
Yeah, but Richard wants to know if people still do this.
Do people still? Oh, not in the West. So this is kind of like the history that I was looking at.
I was just gonna say, Eyes of Enigma says exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah. So okay. So the history that I was sort of looking at was more like mainstream, like mainstream Western or yeah, sort of mainstream Western countries, as a kind of something that would be advertised in the newspapers, if you know what I mean, like that sort of level of mainstream. And they stopped doing that around about the last evidence that I found was Germany in the 1920s in a medical journal that was still talking about it. But by that point, most people had moved on, but they still definitely do it. But I think it's just well underground. I mean, look at Adam, for example.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's largely what that was about, wasn't it?
Oh yeah.
And the mutai medicine or whatever. But yeah, it went up until the 1920s where it was still being written about in kind of respected medical journals in supposedly enlightened countries. But that was about the end of it. And then that was very like, although it was sort of mainstream medical journals, it still wasn't considered mainstream medicine at that point. It was kind of like the late 1880s that it seemed to die out. And it was not very popular in the entire 19th century. It's sort of the 19th century was its big decline. But yeah, from like early, I mean, it depends how early you want to go back, but like, so I don't want to get too much into it because obviously a lot of this will be in the episode, but it sort of goes really far back to like even like the Romans and things like that, who would eat drink the blood of gladiators and stuff like that to consume their vitality.
Morelli just comes on for the cat. She just wants to see the cat.
Yeah, she's
she's loving right now.
I know, but it's really warm. I don't know why so.
She's hungry.
Go into Firefox Focus and Google murders with random implements.
Yeah, honest to God. No, I'm dead serious. Use Firefox Focus because you can wipe out your web history.
Yeah, right.
But like if you just Google murder with and then like literally pick just the most random item that comes into your mind.
Oh, what, someone would have done it.
Someone who's done it somewhere. Yeah, I can almost guarantee it. It's pretty insane. But yeah, no,
Yeah,
it's
I'm
serious.
quite sure that's probably true.
It is.
So yeah, that's kind of that. I think we're going to call this live stream because say that we've a lot of technical issues this week. Hopefully by next time we'll sort this out. Basically, we've been kind of forced into changing how we stream because Google Hangouts is discontinuing. But this seems to be. I think this software will work when it eventually works. It should allow us to continue. Because the issue we had was I wanted people to be able to jump in and out of the stream easy enough, like with just a link that we put in the description. So so this software seems like the best way to go. It might just take a couple of streams to kind of iron the kinks out. But yeah, thanks very much for coming, and thanks very much for sort of sticking in with us in the beginning when it was all kind of everywhere and throughout, basically.
Yeah. I guess quick question though before everybody goes away.
Uh-huh.
As far as time wise for the stream, like does this time work better for you guys? Worse?
It's a bit early, isn't it?
Well, and that's kind of what I'm wondering is if it, if it's better for them, if it's worse, what's easier. So if you guys want to drop me a message wherever or something just to let me know. I'm just trying to get some feedback to figure out what works best for everyone as far as streaming.
Yeah. It's difficult to try and figure out a time that suits everyone. I don't think we'll ever
bit early.
get a time that suits everyone.
No, but
yeah, I'd say this week was more because we haven't done one in the GMT kind of area for a while. I just wanted to kind of spread them out, but it'd be nice if even if we do that, if it could sort of be a time that would suit as many as possible, really. But yeah, it's tough. It's almost dinner for me.
Central Africa still uses course.
Yeah, James. So that's a lot like it, sort of like the yeah. I've read a lot about that when I was in Adam, that episode about Africa. Yeah, it's pretty bonkers. I was just surprised how long it lasted in, say, these sort of supposedly kind of like after the kind of science enlightenment of like the 19th century, how it kind of hung in there for such a long time. But yeah, that might be next week's episode. It might not. It might be something completely different.
Mm-hmm.
We shall see. But, yeah, thanks very much for coming. So thanks very much for sticking with us through the technical difficulties. Next week, I think the stream will probably go back to the regular time for now. If we try and we'll try and work. Maybe we'll just try and work out one thing at a time. Let's get the technical stuff sorted first.
Yeah, right.
Once we get that back to being smooth, then we can crack on from there. So yeah, thanks very much.
Thank you very much, guys. Like, subscribe,
Richard. If you mean about through eating corpse medicine, yes, that did happen sometimes. But I'm going to leave it there and leave you hanging. Yeah, thanks very much, everyone. Darkhistories.com, like, subscribe, all that stuff. Cheers.
Sleep tight.